Hi everyone, welcome back to Julia's story. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. The bell at our small community school sounds like a tin cup tapping a railing, and I have learned to love it. It is honest and a little tired, like the rest of us. I teach year 6 in a room that used to be a storage space, with books that lean like they are trying to hold one another up and a whiteboard that refuses to erase the past. My salary stretches the way dough does when you pull it too thin, but the work fills the parts of me that money never could. Most mornings begin with chalk dust on my sleeves, a kettle that takes its time, and a quiet promise to be patient with children and with myself. That morning, the principal stuck his head through my door before the first lesson. His tie was crooked, which meant he was nervous. He whispered that a donor was coming for the charity day, someone important, and that we should act natural. The phrase made me smile. Nothing is less natural than being told to act natural. The children were painting masks for the school play when the visitor arrived. I knew he was in the corridor before I saw him because the air changed. Voices lowered. Footsteps softened. It is funny how a room knows when wealth has walked into it. When he stepped through the door, he looked like every storybook version of a prince that my students draw. Tall, impeccable suit, a watch that caught the light, hair too perfect for wind or rain to disturb. He did not feel like any prince I had ever read about, though. He stood quietly by the door, hands in his pockets, and watched the class with an expression that surprised me. Not boredom. Not impatience. Something closer to hunger, the kind that has nothing to do with food. The principal introduced him as Adrian. No surname. His smile was soft at the edges. He shook my hand and did not look past me while he did it. I told myself that was nothing, that people with expensive shoes can still have decent manners, but my pulse did not listen. He asked if he could sit at the back while I taught. I said yes, and pen marks appeared on my fingers because nerves make me write too hard. We were halfway through a reading exercise when Zane's shoelace betrayed him and sent him stumbling into a puddle of paint. The class laughed, not unkindly, but loud enough to turn his cheeks the color of the puddle. I would have knelt, except Adrian was already there. He folded himself to the floor and tied the laces with slow care, talking to Zane in a voice that made the others quiet again. He asked about the mask and got a lecture on jaguars in return. He listened like jaguars were new to him. When he stood, his cuff had a smear of blue across it. He did not brush it away. At break, he stayed in the room while the children thundered out to the yard. He looked around at the posters, the crooked bookshelf, the list of spelling words we were conquering one stubborn syllable at a time. He asked how long I had taught here. I told him 6 years. He asked what the school needed most. I said new readers, a working projector, and a roof that does not weep in heavy rain. He smiled at that. Money for a mended roof is not a glamorous headline. I liked that it made him smile anyway. The principal came back with a clipboard and a face that tried to hide hope. He asked Adrian if he would like to tour the new library space, which is a polite way of saying the dusty room by the stairwell where we keep the donated books. Adrian said later that he wanted to stay a little longer in my class if that was all right. The principal blinked and said of course it was. When he left, the silence felt easy, not strained. He told me he had not been inside a classroom like this since he was a boy. I told him this is the only kind I know. He asked if I always knew I would teach. I said no, that I had planned to do something else once, and then life happened and put chalk in my hands and I never put it down again. He looked like he understood what it feels like when a plan steps aside to make room for a calling. The children came back, cheeks bright, pockets full of stones and secrets. Adrian drifted among them like he belonged, and they let him. He read with Amaya, who stumbles on soft vowels, and he clapped for Denny's drawing of a tiger that looks like a cat in a crown. When the bell finally asked us to stop, he stood in the doorway and thanked them as if they had given him something more valuable than time. When the room emptied, he lingered. He looked at the masks laid out to dry like a row of bright faces. Then he looked at me, and something unsteady moved in that look. He said my name the way people do when they are trying it out on their tongue for the first time to see if it fits. He asked if I would come to the charity evening in the city that weekend, as his guest. He said the school would benefit from the event and that I could speak about the children. He spoke carefully, as if he was trying not to tip anything over. Saying yes felt like stepping off a curb when you thought there was still another step. I agreed anyway because a good teacher grows a spine when it is for the children. He wrote his number on the corner of a worksheet. His handwriting was neat, the numbers aligned like a promise. He thanked me again and left with the principal, his blue cuff still stained. I found myself smiling at the mark like it proved he had been here. The room smelled like paint and orange hand soap. I was erasing the board when my colleague Lila swept in with eyes wide as saucers. She whispered that she had just read a gossip column that mentioned Adrian's full name paired with a woman called Victoria, who has a face you remember and a talent for stirring the press. Lila said there were whispers that Victoria and Adrian had only recently parted, that the break was messy, that there were photographs nobody was supposed to see. I told Lila I did not have the patience for rumors. My voice sounded steadier than my stomach felt. The last of the daylight was sliding off the desks when the corridor shifted again. The air carried perfume before it carried footsteps. I turned and saw a woman at the threshold of my small classroom. She wore a coat the color of cream and a smile you could cut bread with. Her eyes wandered over the room as if it were an exhibit. When they landed on me, the smile warmed without getting kind. "You must be the teacher," she said. Her voice was smooth and cool. I nodded. She stepped inside, heels silent on our scuffed floor, and extended a hand without looking at it. I took it because manners are the one luxury I can always afford. "I am Victoria," she said. "I thought it would be better if we met here, where you feel at home." She looked past me to the drying masks and then back at me, the smile sharpening by a degree. "Adrian and I have a long history. I find it helps to get ahead of misunderstandings." My hand tightened involuntarily around the eraser. In the corridor behind her, the principal's laugh rose and fell. Somewhere outside, a ball thudded against the wall and a child yelled for a friend to pass it back. Inside the room, the air held still. Victoria tilted her head, eyes bright like polished stones. "He did not tell you I was coming, did he?" The sound of her name still hung in the room when she moved closer, her heels clicking softly against the wooden floor. Victoria did not belong here, and she knew it. Every inch of her screamed wealth, power, and the kind of confidence you don't borrow. You inherit it, or you learn it the hard way. She stood beside the row of masks, tilting her head at them as though they were curiosities in a museum. "Children can be so creative," she murmured, her voice smooth, but I caught the sharp edge underneath. I set the eraser down slowly, trying not to reveal the way my heart was hammering. "Yes, they are. They surprise me every day." Her gaze flicked toward me, cool and assessing. I imagine Adrian was charmed by that. There it was. Not a question, but a statement. My throat went dry. I wanted to ask why she was here, what exactly she hoped to accomplish, but something in her expression told me that would give her too much satisfaction. Instead, I said carefully, "He came to support the school. That's all." Victoria's smile widened, but it never reached her eyes. "Adrian doesn't do anything, just to support. He invests. And when he invests, it's rarely only money." She let the words dangle between us like a trap waiting for me to step inside. The classroom door creaked again, and I thought for a second it might be Adrian, come to rescue me from this suffocating conversation. But it was Lila, holding a stack of papers and staring wide-eyed at Victoria. The recognition on her face was instant. "Oh my God, you're Victoria Delacroix," Lila breathed, her voice hushed, reverent. Victoria accepted the recognition with a slight tilt of her chin. I suppose I am. Lila looked between us, her curiosity practically glowing. Are you here for Adrian? The name slipped out too casually, and Victoria pounced. Of course I am, she said smoothly. Adrian and I have known each other for years. I simply couldn't let our connection be misunderstood. She let her gaze fall on me again, deliberate and heavy. Lila shifted uneasily, sensing the tension, and muttered something about needing to drop off the papers before she slipped out as quickly as she'd come. The door clicked shut, leaving me alone with the storm once more. Victoria stepped closer, invading my space. He doesn't tell people much about himself, you know. You probably don't even know who he really is. I clenched my hands together, forcing my voice steady. He introduced himself as Adrian. That's all I need to know. Her laugh was low and mocking. Admirable. Naive, but admirable. Let me give you a little advice, teacher. Men like Adrian, they don't belong in places like this. They might pretend, but in the end, they always return to their world. And you, her eyes traveled deliberately over the chalk-stained desks, the peeling walls, then back to me. You'll be left right where you started. My chest tightened, but I refused to give her the satisfaction of flinching. If that's meant to scare me, it won't. I have nothing to lose. For the first time, her smile faltered, just slightly, and I knew I had struck a chord. She leaned closer, her perfume heavy in the air, and whispered, "We'll see about that." Then she turned sharply, her heels echoing against the floor as she swept out of the classroom. The silence she left behind felt heavier than her presence. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the drying masks, each one bright and innocent. My heart pounded, my thoughts raced. Who was Adrian really? And why did Victoria feel the need to warn me away? That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Victoria's knowing smile and heard her voice, dripping with confidence. She had spoken like someone who was certain of her place in Adrian's life. But beneath the fear she had planted, another feeling stirred, something stronger. Curiosity. I needed to know the truth about Adrian. And deep down, I sensed that whatever truth I uncovered would change everything. The next morning, I walked into class with a forced smile plastered on my face, the kind I'd perfected over the years to hide exhaustion or doubt. But today, the mask felt heavier. My mind wasn't on the lesson plan or the laughter of the children. It was still tangled in the words Victoria had thrown at me like darts. When Adrian showed up later that day, it was almost as if he could sense my unease. He leaned casually against the doorframe, his sleeves rolled up, his tie loosened, looking so out of place among the sticky desks and spilled crayons. Yet somehow, he looked like he belonged here too. "You seem distracted," he said gently as the children spilled out to recess. I tried to laugh it off. Just a long day. He gave me that look, the one that seemed to see through every wall I put up. Is it something I did? My stomach twisted. Part of me wanted to tell him everything, that Victoria had shown up, that she'd made me question who he was, that I was terrified of being nothing more than a fleeting distraction to him. But the other part of me knew how dangerous that truth could be. I barely knew this man, and yet he was already burrowed deep into my life. "No," I said quickly, too quickly. "You've done nothing wrong." He nodded, but his eyes lingered on me with quiet intensity. "Good. Because I don't plan on leaving anytime soon." His words should have comforted me, but instead they tangled with Victoria's warning until my chest ached with confusion. That evening, I met with Lila at a cafe. The moment I sat down, she leaned across the table. "You didn't tell me Victoria Delacroix came to your classroom yesterday." I sighed, stirring my coffee just to avoid her wide-eyed stare. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. "A big deal," she hissed. "She's not just anyone. She's Adrian's ex-fiancée. My hand froze mid-stir. Fiancé. Yes, Lila confirmed, lowering her voice. It was everywhere in the society pages a few years back. They were the golden couple, Adrian and Victoria. Until one day it all just ended. No one ever found out why. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too crowded. He never mentioned her, I whispered, more to myself than to Lila. Of course he didn't, Lila said. Men like Adrian don't talk about their pasts. But Victoria showing up here? That means something. I walked home that night with the words echoing in my mind. Ex-fiancé. Golden couple. Secrets. When I entered my tiny apartment, I found a bouquet of white lilies sitting on the table with a simple card. For the teacher who makes the world brighter. I didn't need to guess who they were from. And suddenly, I wasn't sure if the gesture made me feel cherished or terrified. Because the more I was drawn to Adrian, the more I realized how little I knew about him. And worse, how much power he had to break me if Victoria was right. That night, as I lay awake listening to the hum of the city outside my window, I promised myself something. I would uncover Adrian's truth, even if it shattered everything. The following week passed in a haze of emotions I couldn't quite untangle. Adrian continued to appear at my classroom, sometimes just to bring coffee, sometimes to walk me home. His presence was both comforting and terrifying because I knew I was getting in too deep without answers. One evening, as we walked down the quiet street toward my apartment, the words slipped out of me before I could stop them. Who is Victoria to you? Adrian stopped mid-step, his expression unreadable under the streetlight. For a long moment, he didn't say anything, and the silence felt heavier than any answer. Finally, he exhaled. She was part of my past, he admitted. A chapter one thought was closed. Your ex-fiancé, I pressed, my voice shaking despite my attempt at calm. He blinked, surprised, and then gave a slow, almost bitter smile. I see she's been talking. I swallowed hard. So it's true. Adrian's jaw clenched. Yes, we were engaged. But she didn't want me. She wanted the empire. The power. I called off the wedding when I realized I was just a stepping stone to her ambitions. His words rang with honesty, but a part of me still ached. Because if he could fall for someone like Victoria once, what did that say about the kind of women who drew his attention? What did that say about me? He must have read the doubt on my face, because his voice softened. You're not her, Claire. You're nothing like her. We reached my apartment, and before I could respond, he reached for my hand. His touch was warm, grounding, almost enough to make me forget the storm inside me. But as he leaned in closer, about to kiss me, a shadow moved in the corner of the street. Victoria. She stood under the glow of a lamppost, her eyes locked on us, her lips curved in a smile that wasn't kind at all. Adrian froze when he noticed her too. For a heartbeat, none of us moved. Then, without a word, Victoria turned and disappeared into the night. The tension between us thickened instantly. I should go, Adrian said, his voice tight. I nodded, even though my heart screamed to reach for him, to ask him to stay. But the doubt, the uncertainty, and that haunting smile from Victoria clung to me like a shadow. That night, I lay awake replaying every moment, every word. Adrian had shared part of the truth, but something told me it wasn't the whole truth. And until I knew all of it, I couldn't let myself fall completely, no matter how much my heart already wanted to. The cliffhanger was growing sharper, and I knew the next step would change everything. The following morning, I dragged myself to work with heavy eyes and a mind clouded by questions. The children's laughter usually eased my thoughts, but even their innocent smiles couldn't push away the image of Victoria's cold, knowing stare the night before. By mid-afternoon, I had almost convinced myself to ignore it, until Victoria walked into my classroom. She wasn't supposed to be there. Her heels clicked against the wooden floor as if she owned the place, and her perfume filled the air in a way that didn't belong in a room full of crayons and chalk. "Miss Claire," she said sweetly, though the venom in her eyes betrayed her tone. "I just wanted to stop by. You see, Adrian and I go back a long way, and I thought you deserved to hear the truth directly from me." I froze, my fingers tightening around the chalk. "This isn't the time or the place," I said firmly, trying to shield the children from her presence. "Oh, don't worry," she said, waving a manicured hand. "I'll be brief." She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper sharp enough to cut. "Adrian will never choose you. He may flirt, he may play, but at the end of the day, men like him marry women like me. Not poor teachers scraping by." Her words pierced deeper than I wanted to admit. Before I could reply, Adrian appeared at the door. His expression shifted from shock to anger the second he saw her. "Victoria," he said sharply, stepping inside. "Leave. Now." But Victoria only smiled. "I was just enlightening your little charity project here. She deserves to know the truth before she embarrasses herself." Adrian's hand curled into a fist. "That's enough. Don't you dare speak to her like that." The room fell silent, even the children sensing the storm brewing. My heart pounded in my chest. Adrian was defending me, but the way Victoria looked at me, like she knew some secret that I didn't, made me wonder if she wasn't entirely wrong. Victoria finally turned to leave, her smile smug. "We'll see how long this little fantasy lasts." When she was gone, Adrian turned to me, his face pale with fury and regret. "Claire, I'm so sorry. She has no right to." But I stepped back, my voice trembling. "Adrian, is she right? Am I just a passing distraction for you?" The silence that followed felt like the loudest answer of all. And in that silence, I realized something terrifying. No matter what he said next, my heart was already in too deep to walk away. The days that followed felt heavier than I could have imagined. Adrian tried calling me, sending messages, even waiting outside the school, but I avoided him at every turn. Not because I didn't want to see him, but because I was terrified of what I might hear if I let him explain. At night, I would lie awake staring at the ceiling, his voice echoing in my head. I kept wondering if Victoria's words were right, if I was nothing more than a fleeting moment of warmth in his otherwise perfect world. One afternoon, while wiping chalk from my hands, I saw him again. Adrian stood across the street, his suit jacket slung over his shoulder, looking almost out of place in our small neighborhood. He didn't try to come closer this time. He just watched me with an expression I couldn't read. My chest tightened. I wanted to run to him, to bury myself in the safety of his arms. But instead, I turned away, my pride forcing me to walk in the opposite direction. Later that evening, I confided in my friend Sarah, who had seen me quietly unraveling for days. She listened patiently before finally saying, "Claire, you can't keep punishing him for a question you never let him answer. Maybe he has flaws, maybe his world is complicated, but don't you think you owe yourself the truth?" Her words struck me harder than I expected. She was right. I was hiding behind fear, building walls instead of finding answers. The next morning, as if fate had heard my decision, Adrian appeared at the school gate again. But this time, instead of chasing me, he quietly handed me a sealed envelope. His eyes lingered on mine, silently begging me to read it. Then he turned and walked away. Inside was a letter written in his unmistakable handwriting. Every line was raw, unpolished, nothing like the charming man I first met. He wrote about his loneliness, his mistakes, his fear of losing me, and how no one, not even Victoria, had ever made him feel the way I did. By the time I finished reading, tears blurred the ink. And though I wasn't ready to forgive him completely for the first time, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just a passing distraction. But even as hope flickered in my heart, I couldn't shake the nagging thought that Victoria wasn't finished with us yet. The calm after Adrian's letter didn't last long. A week later, an invitation arrived at my small apartment, written in gold letters and sealed with an insignia I didn't recognize. Inside was a note for a charity gala, hosted by none other than Victoria's family. My name was handwritten at the bottom, as if daring me to show up. I almost tore it apart, but something inside told me this wasn't just an invitation, it was a message. Victoria wasn't done, and if I stayed away, she'd only grow bolder. Against my better judgment, I decided to go. The night of the event, I borrowed a simple dress from Sarah, nothing like the gowns the elite would wear. Still, I walked into the glittering ballroom with my head high. The chandeliers sparkled, the sound of violins filled the air, and every corner whispered wealth and privilege. I felt completely out of place. Then I saw her. Victoria, radiant in a red silk gown, her smile sharp as glass. She noticed me immediately and glided across the room like a queen approaching her subject. "Well, well," she purred, her eyes sweeping over me. The schoolteacher who thinks she can rewrite fairy tales. Brave of you to come. Before I could reply, Adrian appeared from behind her, his gaze locking onto mine. Relief and shock crossed his face, but Victoria was faster. She slipped her arm through his and smirked at me. "Tell me, Claire," she said sweetly. "Did he mention we were once engaged? Or that his family still thinks I'm the better choice?" My heart stuttered, but I forced my voice steady. "What matters is the present, not the past." Her smile widened, clearly enjoying the game. "Then maybe you'll enjoy the truth." With a snap of her fingers, a projector lit up the ballroom wall. Images flashed, Adrian and Victoria, holding hands, kissing, attending parties. They were from years ago, but the crowd didn't care. Gasps filled the room, and whispers started. I froze, my pulse pounding in my ears. Adrian stepped forward, his voice sharp with anger. "This is enough, Victoria. You're clinging to the past because you can't accept that it's over." But Victoria leaned closer to me, her voice low enough only I could hear. "He'll always belong to my world, Claire. And you'll always be the outsider." Her words cut deeper than the images ever could. I walked out of the ballroom before Adrian could stop me, the weight of 100 stares burning into my back. For the first time, I wasn't sure if love could survive the power of money and status. I didn't know how long I walked after leaving the ballroom. My heels ached, my hands trembled, and the city lights blurred through the tears I tried to blink away. For once, the bustling streets of New York felt hostile, like every passerby carried the judgment I'd just endured. Back in my apartment, silence wrapped around me. I sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing the borrowed dress, replaying Victoria's words in my head. "Outsider." It echoed like a curse. Hours passed before there was a knock at my door. I ignored it, but the knocking continued, firm and steady. When I finally opened the door, Adrian stood there, tie loosened, hair disheveled, his eyes frantic. "Claire," he breathed, as though my name was a lifeline. "Please, let me explain." I crossed my arms, my voice sharp. "What is there to explain? She showed everyone who you were with, who you belonged to." He stepped inside, closing the door gently behind him. "That was years ago. Yes, I was with Victoria. I thought I loved her, but it was shallow, empty. When I met you, I understood what love really meant. Don't let her lies ruin this." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But my doubts spilled out before I could stop them. Do you ever think about what it would be like if you stayed with her? She's everything your family wants. And me. I'm just a teacher who barely pays her rent. Adrian's jaw tightened. He walked closer, lowering his voice. "I don't want perfection, Claire. I want honesty, kindness, and a heart that doesn't treat people like they're disposable. That's you. Not her." His sincerity cracked something inside me, but before I could answer, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from an unknown number lit up the screen. I picked it up, and my stomach turned. It was a picture of Adrian and me together, taken without our knowledge. The caption read, "He'll leave you too. Just wait." My hands shook as I showed him the phone. His face darkened, fury flickering in his eyes. "She won't stop," he muttered. "Victoria's gone too far this time." But all I could think was how far she was willing to go, and whether I was strong enough to keep standing beside him while she tried to tear us apart piece by piece. The line between love and destruction was growing thinner by the day, and I feared the breaking point was closer than either of us realized. The next morning, I woke to the faint sound of rain tapping against the window. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds, as though the world itself mirrored the weight pressing on my chest. Adrian was still asleep on the couch. He had insisted on staying after last night, refusing to leave me alone with the threats circling us. I sat quietly, staring at the phone still resting on the nightstand. That message haunted me. Who had taken that photo? How many more were out there? Was Victoria watching us, waiting for the right moment to strike again? When Adrian finally stirred, his eyes were bloodshot but determined. He sat up, running a hand through his hair. "We need to fight back," he said, his voice low but steady. "Fight back?" I echoed. "Adrian, she's powerful. She has money, connections, and she doesn't care who she destroys. What can we possibly do against her?" He stood, crossing the room to take my hands. "We don't fight her with money. We fight her with truth. If she wants to smear our names, we show everyone who we really are, what we mean to each other. She thrives in shadows, Claire. We can't let her drag us there with her." His conviction gave me strength I didn't know I had, but before I could respond, my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. I hesitated, then answered. "Miss Claire." The voice on the other end was cold, almost mocking. "You don't know me, but I know you. I saw you last night at the gala. Pretty dress. Shame you think you belong with him." My throat tightened. "Who is this?" The caller chuckled. "Doesn't matter. What matters is this. Walk away, or you'll regret it. He's not worth what's coming." Then the line went dead. I stared at the phone, my hands shaking. Adrian grabbed it from me, his jaw set. "She's hiring people now. She won't stop until she breaks you." But I was already shaking my head. Something inside me hardened. "No. She won't stop until I let her win. And I won't." Adrian's eyes searched mine, and for the first time in days, a small smile curved his lips. "That's the woman I fell in love with." Yet even as we clung to that fragile determination, I couldn't shake the feeling that the real storm was only just beginning. The city lights shimmered through the hotel's tall glass windows, reflecting like stars caught in steel and glass. Adrian stood beside me, his hand warm against mine as we faced the skyline. We had spent the day untangling the chaos Victoria had unleashed, meetings with lawyers, statements given to protect our names, and endless calls. Yet here, in this quiet moment, it felt like the world had fallen away, leaving only us. "Claire," he said softly, his voice carrying a weight that made my heart race, "I've spent years building walls around myself. I thought money could protect me, status could shield me, and control could keep me safe. But then you appeared. You weren't impressed by any of it. You saw me, the man behind the fortune, and you stayed." I blinked back tears as he reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. The sight of it stole my breath. He opened it to reveal a ring, the diamond catching the glow of the city like a shard of fire. "I don't care what she says, or what anyone thinks. I want you, Claire. I want us. Will you marry me?" The world slowed, the air thick with anticipation. I thought of the threats, the scandals, the way my life had turned upside down since Adrian had walked into it. I thought of Victoria, of the shadows waiting to swallow us whole. But most of all, I thought of the way he looked at me, as though I was the only thing that had ever mattered. "Yes," I whispered, my voice trembling. Then louder, firmer, with every ounce of certainty in my heart. "Yes, Adrian." Relief washed over his face, his shoulders sagging as though he had been holding his breath for years. He slipped the ring onto my finger, his hand shaking, his eyes never leaving mine. And when his lips found mine, the kiss was filled with all the passion and promise of two souls who had fought their way through storms just to find each other. But as our kiss deepened, a shadow moved in the corner of the room. My blood ran cold when I saw the envelope slipped under the door, its white edge stark against the polished floor. Adrian pulled back, frowning, then crossed the room to pick it up. He opened it slowly, his face darkening as his eyes scanned the note. "What is it?" I asked, my voice shaking. He looked at me, his expression grim. "It's not over, Claire. She's coming for us." And just like that, the fragile calm shattered, leaving us standing together on the edge of a new war. The weeks that followed were anything but quiet. Victoria's threats turned into whispers in the press, rumors spreading like wildfire about Adrian's empire, his past, and me. It was as if she wanted to tear down everything he had worked for, and I was the easiest target she could use. But through it all, Adrian never let go of my hand. We faced reporters together, endured meetings where shareholders questioned my presence, and endured long nights where we could barely rest, waiting for the next move she would make. One evening, after another stormy day of damage control, Adrian and I found ourselves back in the little cafe where everything had started. The same corner table, the same soft hum of conversation around us. He looked at me across the table, exhaustion in his eyes, but also something stronger. "You saved me," he said quietly. "Not just from her, or from the lies. You saved me from myself." I blinked at him, stunned. "Adrian!" He reached across the table, taking my hand. I spent years thinking money could protect me, that power would make me untouchable. But it left me empty. You walked into my life with nothing to offer but your honesty, your kindness, and somehow, that became everything I never knew I needed. Tears burned my eyes, not from sadness, but from the depth of what his words meant. I had never imagined a man like him, a billionaire who could have had anyone, anything, would find value in a woman like me. Yet here he was, choosing me again and again. I leaned closer, whispering, "And you saved me too. From loneliness. From fear. From thinking I wasn't enough." He smiled, that rare, unguarded smile I had come to treasure. "Then we save each other every day, for the rest of our lives." The world outside still buzzed with chaos, but in that moment, it didn't matter. The fight wasn't over, but neither were we. Together, we had something stronger than scandal, stronger than betrayal, stronger even than wealth or power. We had love. And no one could take that away.